It was just after midnight when I woke with a start. Something felt off. A strange prickling sensation ran down my spine as if I was being watched. I lay motionless in bed, straining my ears to pick up any sound out of the ordinary. The house was silent save for the low hum of the refrigerator downstairs. Slowly, I turned my head toward the window. A shaft of pale moonlight spilled through a gap in the curtains. As my eyes adjusted to the dim glow, a movement outside caught my eye. Something moved just beyond the glass. A figure? No, multiple figures milling about in the darkness. My heart pounded as I froze in fear. What the hell was that? I blinked hard, hoping it was just my mind playing tricks. But when I looked again, they were still there, strange, shambling forms lurking near the woodline at the edge of our backyard. They seemed human-shaped, but there was something wrong. Grotesquely elongated limbs, heads too large for their bodies. They moved with an unsettling, almost boneless fluidity, contorting in ways that shouldn't be possible. I watched in horror as more and more appeared, emerging from the tree line like a nightmarish parade of the misshapen and unnatural. My room was bathed in shadow, but their figures were outlined with an eerie luminescence, like liquid moonlight given form. A high, keening cry pierced the night, making my blood run cold. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The things outside paused, quietly swaying in response to the unholy sound. Then they all turned, their blank, featureless faces pointing directly at me. Panic gripped me. I wanted to scream, to run, but was paralyzed with primal terror. They knew I was watching. They could sense me. Slowly, unnervingly, they began drifting towards the house. As the first few reached the edge of the yard, I finally found my voice. A choked cry escaped my lips as I stumbled backwards off the bed, hands fumbling behind me as I scrambled away from the window. My back slammed against the wall, and I sank to the floor, drawing my knees up in a futile attempt to make myself a smaller target. That's when it started. A series of wet, sucking sounds, like someone trudging through thick mud. But the sounds seemed to come from all around me. The walls, the ceiling, the very air itself. Closer and closer, closing in. I clapped my hands over my ears, rocking back and forth with my eyes squeezed shut, praying this wasn't real. But it was. Oh God, it was. They were in the house. Here, with me. A sound like splintering wood made me flinch. Then, nothing. Only my own ragged breathing. Daring to crack open an eye, I peered around the pitch-black room. At first I saw nothing amiss, then a flicker of movement just at the edge of my vision. I turned toward it sharply, and there it was. One of those grotesque, inhuman things mere feet away. Its body seemed to ripple and bend like liquid in defiance of anatomy. Despite having no discernible eyes, I could feel its empty gaze piercing me. A thin, bony tendril whipped out from its torso, lashing across my face and leaving behind a stinging welt. I cried out, shuffling backward on my hands and feet until my back struck the wall once more. The creature advanced, its movements becoming more erratic and frenzied. More tendrils unfurled from its body, thrashing wildly while that high, keening wail filled the room. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself for whatever fresh horror was to come. Then, a thunderous crash shook the house. Plaster rained down as the wall beside me exploded inward. I instinctively threw my arms up to shield myself from the debris as sunlight poured through the jagged new hole. As the dust settled, I slowly lowered my arms to find those unearthly beings recoiling, their forms seeming to smolder where touched by the sun's rays. Loud, agonised shrieks filled the air as they contorted grotesquely before simply melting away into foul puddles on the floor. In the center of the decimated wall stood my neighbor, Mr. Henderson, still in his robe and slippers, wielding a sledgehammer. "Yup, thought I heard something over here," he grunted before glancing around at the vicus remains with a confused look. The heck happened? I could only sit in stunned silence, too shocked and relieved to form a response. As the first responders began arriving, I realized the sun had fully risen, banishing the long night at last. I'm not sure exactly what those things were or where they came from. All I know is that they appeared unexpectedly, and just as quickly, were gone, like a waking nightmare. But somewhere deep down, I can't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last I'll see of them. That on some other night, they'll return when the world belongs to the darkness once more.